use for hiking and closed it permanently. My name's Jack Turner, and this is the story of how my HOA learned the hard way not to mess with a man who respects his rights. I moved into a quiet mountain community 2 years ago. The lots were large, each home sitting on at least 10 acres of forested land. Peace, nature, and independence. That's what drew me here. I'm a hunter by tradition and a wildlife photographer by profession. I spend most of my mornings hiking, tracking, and occasionally harvesting game from my own property, perfectly legal, licensed, and safe. But it didn't take long for the HOA to poke its nose where it didn't belong. The first warning. One afternoon, I received a letter taped to my front door. You have been reported for discharging a firearm within HOA jurisdiction. This is a violation of community standards and safety regulations. A fine of $500 has been added to your account. I was stunned. This wasn't some suburban cul-de-sac. It was 10 acres of private, heavily wooded land. The bylaws clearly stated, property owners are free to engage in lawful activities on their privately owned lots. And hunting, in my state, was perfectly legal on private land. I called the HOA to explain, thinking it must be a mistake. But nope. The president, an ex-corporate type named Linda Monroe, told me, even if it's legal, it makes people uncomfortable. We have children here. It sets the wrong tone. The wrong tone. On my own land. I replied. She said, you're not being neighborly. Retaliation begins. They didn't stop at the fine. Suddenly, I started getting weekly citations. Unapproved shed structure. It was a hunting blind. Improper disposal of organic waste. It was deer bones I buried under compost. Noise complaints, because I was testing trail cameras at night. It was clear. They didn't want a hunter in their peaceful neighborhood. But what they didn't realize was that I wasn't just some recluse with a rifle. I had money and patience, and I knew something they didn't. Their precious trails. Behind the community was a beautiful stretch of hills with winding trails. The HOA members hiked there every weekend. Families, dogs, nature walks. It was the pride of the neighborhood. What most of them didn't know was that those trails weren't on HOA land. They crossed parcels owned by a timber company. And I had a friend who worked there. One dinner and a few $1,000s later, I had a list of the parcels, and the contact of the company's land sales manager. The power shift. In less than 3 months, I had purchased 6 parcels of land, roughly 45 acres of forest, including every inch of the trail system. The land wasn't cheap, but I didn't care. Principle mattered more. I installed fencing, locked gates, and posted signs. Private property. No trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted. And then I waited. The backlash, it didn't take long. That Saturday, I watched from my porch with a cup of coffee as HOA members gathered near the trailhead. Confused, surprised, angry. By Monday, I had an email from Linda. Greater than, Jack, we noticed you've blocked access to the community trail. That land has always been open to the residents. I replied. That land is now mine. And after being harassed and fined for lawful activities on my own property, I've decided I no longer wish to share my space with people who don't respect boundaries. Literally or figuratively. Her response. You're being childish and vindictive. My answer. I'm being lawful on my own land. Sound familiar? Fallout. A week later, a special HOA meeting was held. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some homeowners were furious with me. Others were furious with Linda and the board for provoking me. Property values were affected. The community's outdoor charm had vanished. Some neighbors tried to talk me into reopening the trails. I said I'd consider a lease for $25,000 a year and a formal apology from the board. No one called back. The lesson today: the trails are quiet. Nature is healing. Deer are returning. And ironically, my property is more peaceful than ever. Sometimes the best way to deal with bullies isn't to fight back.